Hello guys, this is Jack, and today we're going to be talking about Obsession, which is directed by Curry Barker. This was one of those films that I missed last year at the Toronto Film Festival. It was part of like the Midnight Madness lineup, and usually when those types of films come out during like the programming of the Midnight Madness lineup, I can't like really get into those screenings because you have to kind of really like figure out how Ticketmaster works, but that was a long time ago, and I heard a lot of great things about this film, especially from people who were able to attend that screening. But I've been dying to see this film ever since the reception has been like rapturous with the movie. So it was one of those things where I had to like wait till it finally comes out. And now it's out in the open, and I can say wholeheartedly that this is easily one of the best horror films of the year so far. I don't know what other horror films are going to come out this year that might top Obsession, but I think this takes the cake. And usually when I try to look for like horror films, I usually try to find something that's very lived in, but also dealing with a lot of like the heightened aspect of life. And I think Obsession really taps into like the fear of finding a loved one, especially a person who is possessed by something that could cause them to destroy themselves. And Obsession is basically about a young man who is searching for love. He's hanging out with his friends. He has a best friend played by Indy Narvetti who is kind of like friendly with him. And the main character, Bear, played by Michael Johnston, is falling in love with this girl, and he really wants to like say something to this girl, really want to like make sure that she is like on the same page as him with like the whole situation and the relationship. And Bear eventually tries to figure out a way to woo this girl by going into an antique store and finding a magic stick that grants one wish once you break the stick. And of course, he wishes for the eternal love of this girl. And Nikki, played by Indy Narvetti, becomes in love with this guy immediately after the magic spell works. And from there, Curry Barker and his direction basically follows these two characters as they are trying to live out their days with like this eternal love. And it's a monkey paw situation where you're having these characters live out their wishes, but it is one of those things where you have to be careful for what you wish for or what you wish for. And Obsession is tapping into that fear of believing in something that can't really exist because of the natural order. And Bear basically breaks the natural order by wishing that his internal love for this girl happens in real life. And it goes into a deep and dark and honestly disgusting, depressing kind of tale, which also has a little bit of like Hansel and Gretel meets Wish Upon. There's some moments of like Romeo and Juliet where the internal love starts to get very deadly, especially with Nikki, who in the beginning of the film, a lot of her friends are kind of making fun of her because she used to be called Freaky Nikki. And there is some sort of like little thing that appears sometimes in the film where you're kind of like in a balance between trying to figure out whether or not Nikki is actually mentally ill, or is the manifestations of like this wish actually is a part of what is happening to her in her body and out of her body. And Curry Barker really plays a lot with like the whole idea while also avoiding a lot of like the jump scares or the typical jump scares that you usually see in a lot of like these typical horror films. Curry Barker, like his direction is very honed in with the fact of just using ambience and just clever jump scares instead of just like overbearing jump scares. And I was just entirely impressed by the way Curry was able to handle all of those kind of aspects into mind. And sure, you can say this film can go a little bit deeper with the whole relationship, and it does a little bit once you get past the second half of this film. I don't want to spoil it, but it is something to be witnessed and behold But yeah, like Michael Johnston, his performance is really fantastic. He is the nice guy in this situation in the beginning, where you're just like, oh, I can root for this guy. I believe that he's really trying to woo this girl, especially in the beginning, where he uses one of his friends to kind of create like a mock-up discussion of how to, talk to this girl, Nikki, and it ends in the scene where it turns out like the friend is actually just working at like the diner. But eventually, again, once you really start to understand Bear and like how he's controlling the relationship after the wish happens, it starts to get really kind of like heady, and you really start to figure out, oh wait, Bear is not actually a good guy. He's actually just a guy who is controlling every like aspect of the relationship, but also at the same time he doesn't know how to communicate because he just destroyed the natural order of life and society. And Indy Narvati, I haven't seen a lot of her performances in film and television, but she gives one of the best performances of the year, hands down so far. And she basically tops herself with other Scream queens like Mia Goth and Kaylee Spaney, just really honing in a lot of like the terror and fear of being bewitched by like this magic spell of internal love. And she does a lot of like great Scream Queen moments, especially with her face. There's a moment where she's like frowning kind of in a very disgusting way, and it just creeps you out, man. But yeah, like she gives one of the best performances of the year so far. I would definitely love her to be a part of like the awards season circuit, but I don't know about that yet. And again, I think this film really plays a lot into like the whole idea of just relationships and how we're going through our types of relationships and communication in this modern age. And Curry Barker brilliantly kind of hones all that thematics into the film, while also not avoiding or negating a lot of the stuff that's happening on screen. And yeah, like this was just utterly fantastic, and I'm dying to see this again. I give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I don't really need to say too much about the film as far as like awards prospects, because I don't know if this film is going to reach the heights of last year with Weapons or Sinners, with those films also kind of being a little bit heightened with their themes. And I think Obsession is a normal horror film, but there is some aspects where you could actually play deeper into like the meaning of the film, while also being very entertained by all the performances in mind. I would like to see Indy Narvati be nominated for a few awards, especially Golden Globes or Film Independent, because this is a movie that's budgeted low for like $1 million, and it just made its budget back this weekend. So we could definitely see this film kind of like playing along with like the Film Independent nominations. And also I think DGA, first time director, if Curry Barker is eligible, despite his first film being Milk and Cereal, which was on YouTube, which I highly recommend. But yeah, man, like, I don't know. I really don't know. We'll see about it. But for now, I really dug this film. Definitely check it out. It's been a good weekend for movies like Life Hack. I also saw Is God Is, which I kind of want to review eventually. But yeah, man, like this was just a great week for films, and I hope you guys are enjoying what's going on right now on the screens. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, share, do whatever you can to, spread the word out for this review. Thank you guys. Peace out.